Celtics win on opening night. Kristaps Porzingis, Jayson Tatum were awesome. Jaylen Brown was not. And what was up with that fourth quarter? Going to talk about it all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making this show part of your daily routine. I'm here for you Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts like Friday night when the Celtics play the Miami Heat. I will give you a bonus podcast after that. So make sure you're subscribed. It's free, it's fresh, it's available everywhere podcasts exist. Watch the show on YouTube. Hop into the comment section. Let me know what you think. My name is John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And today I'm talking about a 108-104 win over the New York Knicks on opening night. Whew. That one was this is almost a very different podcast. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first-time deposit match of up to $100. So new format here for the post-game show later on, a thing that makes me go, and that's going to be the fourth quarter. A closer look at what the hell is going on in that fourth quarter anyway. Things I dislike in the second segment, two things that we saw coming probably and one that we didn't in Jaylen Brown's performance. But let's just start off with the things that I like. And let's start off with Kristaps Porzingis. 9 points down the stretch in the fourth quarter where he had a big fourth quarter overall. He scored 30 in the game overall, the best debut for a new Celtic, beating out Dominique Wilkins, who had 25 in his debut. 12 of those came in the fourth quarter. 12 points in the fourth quarter, 2 of 5 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3, and a perfect 6 of 6 from the line. Porzingis down the stretch. Again, I'll talk about the fourth quarter in general later on, but it was very much it's happening again type of situation. It's very much here come the Celtics. You walk into the fourth quarter with a lead. Next thing you know, it's a 13-2 run, something like that, and you're behind. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then Porzingis goes off for 9 points as part of a 13-3 Celtics close to the game. So Porzingis looked great. He did a lot of stuff, a lot more off the dribble than I was used to seeing. I think the entire game started out really kind of haphazard. I think both teams were really amped, overhyped. They were playing the podcast at 1.5 speed. It just was frantic and not the best start to the game. But when things were going wrong, the Celtics got them right, and Kristaps Porzingis was a massive part of this. Again, that fourth quarter stretch, 2 free throws, a 3-pointer, another 2 free throws, and was another bucket in there somewhere that he had to take the pressure off of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. A lot of the same things were happening from last season, and I think when I talk about the Celtics didn't have any adversity during the preseason, this was their first chance to kind of get back into regular season mode, finally get some adversity, finally get some kind of, a real opponent, a real, a good team. The Knicks are a good team, a tough team, a physical team, a team that's trying to beat you, Guys played like real minutes in this game. Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown played 38 minutes apiece, almost 39 for Tatum. The Knicks played their guys regular minutes. Randall had played 34 minutes, but it was good to get that kind of adversity out there. And we can go one of two ways here. There's another thing that I like. I like the fact that the Celtics won. How about we can go two ways with, oh, God, they're doing it again, and only because they had Porzingis were they able to pull out of it. Well, they have Porzingis. He's part of the team, and so that means he helped them pull out of it. That's great. They were doing some of the same stuff last year. All of a sudden in the fourth quarter, they just never got into the paint. They never got a paint touch. They got maybe one Jayson Tatum post up where he actually drew a foul. I need to do more of those things. The whole point of having Porzingis and all these guys is to get post up opportunities, and they didn't quite do that as much. So, but when Jaylen Brown had 2 turnovers and it led to two quick 3-pointers, the Celtics called a timeout with 4 and change to go, and they started to get it right. They closed the game on a 13-3 run. They did a lot of good things that they didn't do earlier in the game. And when the pressure was on Tatum and getting double teamed, he wasn't always just passing it to Jaylen Brown and saying, go ahead and figure it out. It was going to Porzingis. And Porzingis hits a huge 3-pointer that, the crowd is chanting, F Porzingis, and he shuts them up with a massive 3-pointer. That's an incredible element to have in this game. And the Celtics were able to start limiting the Knicks to one shot. They were able to stop fouling because they did foul a lot. They were able to clean up some of the things that they were, that caused them to go down 6 in the fourth quarter. That's they stayed poised down the stretch. In the last few minutes of the game, they didn't panic, which they panicked a lot of times last year. So if I'm listing things I like that. I like the execution late in the game. I liked Peyton Pritchard let me rewind. I liked Joe Mazzulla using both of his timeouts after the Celtics got into trouble trying to inbound the ball, and New York had a lot of momentum and a lot of energy, and they had forced, I think, 5 seconds off the clock, and it didn't look like the Celtics were going to get the ball over half court. Joe Mazzulla calls the timeout. Then he calls a second timeout, able to advance it, giving up the 2 timeouts. It was 12 seconds left on the clock, but understanding advancing it was better than having to try to inbound the ball in the backcourt and maybe turning it over because you only had 3 seconds to get the ball over half court. So smart coaching by Joe Mazzulla. I thought Joe Mazzulla did a good job. Smart execution by Peyton Pritchard. His job was to kind of clear out and get into the backcourt, take a defender with him. And when nobody opened up for Tatum to pass, Pritchard just ran right back and gave Tatum an option. And that ended up getting the Celtics the 2 free throws to seal the win. Heads up play. Really heads up play there. Jayson Tatum. Let's put things that I like in this game. Jayson Tatum ends up with 34 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, a block. He did have 4 turnovers after the game. He said, I had the ball. I had too many turnovers. First game of the season. Cut me some slack. But shot well, was aggressive. He was 8 of 9 in the restricted area. That's big. So Jayson Tatum playing big. Now, halfway through the third quarter, it went away and the entire offense got stagnant. I think the Celtics, they tried Jaylen Brown with the bench units in the second quarter. We got to flip that. I think this is you got to take Tatum out first, let Brown play the whole first quarter like normal, have Tatum come in the second quarter. I think that little adjustment can fix a little bit. I think Mazzulla tried to let Jalen cook with that second unit, and it wasn't quite as cohesive. Maybe he'll continue to do it. I don't know. But Tatum, super aggressive, playing the way he's supposed to play. Through 2.5 quarters, he was playing at it like MVP style basketball, right? If he continues to do that, he'll be in the MVP conversation. And shout out to Drew Holiday, who defended Julius Randle and defended him well. I thought that's something that has to be noted here in the things I like. To have Holiday out there starting, Al Horford came off the bench, and going and picking up Randle and bodying him and taking that physicality, doing a good job. I think that was really important. Good for him. Up next, things I didn't like, which includes Jaylen Brown's bad night, the rebounding, and the bench. Talk about that next. Today's show is brought to you by Ibotta. How does free Thanksgiving sound? Free? Yeah. This year, Ibotta is here to give you cash back and make sure your Thanksgiving table is complete. Because who wants turkey without the gravy? Starting November 1st, for the 4th year in a row, Ibotta is giving 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving feast. Just add the offers in the app to redeem everything you need to make your Thanksgiving feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Simple. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, produce, personal care, pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you are buying. You can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands, retailers like Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's real cash. It's not points. Real cash. When you download the Ibotta app and use the code LOCKED, you get 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner starting November 1st. Use the code LOCKED. Download Ibotta, I-B-O-T-T-A. 100% cash back on your Thanksgiving dinner feast starting November 1st. Today's show also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy, super fun, super easy, and you can go out there, $10. If you got the skills, you can turn your $10 into $250. You pick 2 to 6 players on the app. You pick more or less than their projections. So you should have taken less than Jaylen Brown's 22 points. You should have taken more than Jayson Tatum's 24.5 points. I did not do that. I think there was more of a feeling that Jaylen would come out and cook. He did not, but that's okay. If you got those right and you got 4 others right and you bet $10, you could have gotten 250, 25 times your what you put down. With the PrizePicks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For NFL games and college football top 25 matchups, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. Players and stat types that you are that you want to select are very massive and widespread. You've got in-game stuff, you got like first half stuff, you got all sorts of different options. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA to check them out. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase at checkout. You're going to get a first deposit match up to $100. So go check it out. prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics the first listen every day. I'm here for you Monday through Friday. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, and check it out on YouTube. Tomorrow's show, we'll rewatch, we'll go to practice, we'll get some more perspective, and we'll share our thoughts tomorrow on that. So back to the game. Things I didn't like in this 108-104 win over New York. Let's start with Jaylen Brown. It wasn't all bad. Okay. It looked bad a lot of times. He only scored 11 points. He had 5 fouls, 4 of 11 shooting, 0 of 4 from 3. Rough night, generally speaking, for Jaylen Brown. However, 6 rebounds, including some big possessions late, 5 assists. He led the team with 5 assists. That he had some really nice passes. Now, he had a couple of turnovers in there. So I'm not going to say Jaylen had just a flat out overall bad game. He had a bad shooting night. He had some some bad decisions, and it was just not a good performance overall from him. But the 6 rebounds and the 5 assists are meaningful. A steal in there, meaningful. I just feel like, and just, the 2 turnovers came at a bad time, and that's the worst part. And that's why people are going to be really down on Jaylen Brown. But I didn't think it was as bad as the stat lines looked. I think he actually was part of that run late in the game. Like, if you look back at it, he was part of the Celtics getting back on track. But generally speaking, you want Jaylen to be a little bit you need Jaylen Brown to be better than 4 of 11 shooting. 11 shots. I think Jaylen might be struggling more than anybody here to kind of figure out where he fits in the Porzingis, Holiday, White. Everybody's going to have to sacrifice, but very clearly Jayson Tatum with 22 shots was not one of those people who had to sacrifice. And hey, when he's dropping 34 points on 59% shooting, he shouldn't be the one who sacrifices. But Jaylen getting 11 shots, this is going to be a work in progress. It's just going to be a work in progress. The Celtics need to generate more shots. Another thing that I didn't like, Joe Mazzulla said specifically, you got to outshoot the other team. And he sat there and he told us, and he's told multiple outlets, what happens when you don't hit shots. Okay, the Celtics shot almost 31% from 3. Now, they still won this game. Again, going back to the first segment, there are a lot of things you can look at here. They were outshot by 20 field goal attempts. They were outshot 44% to 31% from 3. They were out-rebounded. They gave up 17 offensive rebounds. They lost the second chance points battle by a ton. Their bench was outscored by 26, and they still won the game. Those are all factors that wouldn't have been a win last season. But I didn't like the fact that they only put up 77 shots. They gave up too many. They gave up 97 shots, and this is exactly why you want to take a lot of shots when you want to outscore the other team here, because the Knicks put up 97 shots and didn't shoot well overall from 37% in the game, 44% from 3. They didn't shoot well necessarily inside the arc, which means the Celtics did protect the rim well. I liked the defense. Another thing that I liked in this game, the defense, outside of the lack of defensive rebounding for too long, was good. As Joe Mazzulla said after the game, first shot defense was good, but you got to finish the possession off. You give up 17 offensive rebounds. That's how you end up giving up 20 more shots. 17 of those offensive rebounds plus your 13 turnovers, some live ball turnovers there. That's a recipe for getting outshot. If the Celtics put up 20 more shots themselves, if they put up 97 shots and matched New York, they would have made more than 37 field goals. They would have run away with this. So you have to make sure you're playing with the right pace, getting the defensive stops, getting out into transition, and putting up the field goal attempts. They didn't do that in this one. Joe Mazzulla said that was a priority, and they didn't do that in this one. Joe Mazzulla said the rebounding is a priority. They gave, like I said, 17 offensive rebounds, that's not good enough. And they've said as much after the game. The second chance points were 20-4 in favor of New York. 20-4. That's terrible. But the Celtics have to. The rebounding was a known issue coming into this season, and it remains an issue. First game, I know that that's only the first game, but that has been a constant so far in the preseason. Got to step up the rebounding. Got to box out. Everybody has to do it. And then the bench. Al Horford, 8 points off the bench. 2 huge three-pointers in the third quarter. Huge. And then 4 points for Peyton Pritchard, who hit 1 mid-range jumper and hit 2 free throws. Sam Hauser, 0 for 4 from 3. Pritchard, 0 for 3 from 3. The bench, you got to find better production. 12 points is not going to cut it. The Knicks got 24 points just from Emmanuel Quickley himself. Then you add in 14 more points from Hartenstein and Josh Hart. So that's 38 points to Boston's 12. Outscored by 26 on the bench. Again, it's a positive to say your bench was bad, your shooting was bad, your fourth quarter execution was bad, you got outshot by 20, and you still won the game. I'm going to take that as a net positive. You know, Joe gets to sit there and blast his team, and they still come out of it with a win. So, worth it. Let's talk about that fourth quarter. I'm kind of curious about that fourth quarter. What's going on here? Is this something that rearing its ugly head again? Is it the same stuff from last year? Talk about that next. Today's show brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. We know that football season is here. College football season is coming up here. Has it begun? I don't pay attention to college football. College football is, a huge betting opportunity. NBA is back. Now there's betting opportunities there, all kinds of stuff. If you want to sign up right now is your best time. New customers, you bet $200. You bet $5. Don't bet $200. You'll get $200. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, win or lose. Just bet that $5 if you're a new customer. If you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn, FanDuel.com/LockedOn is where you go to get that $5 guaranteed $200 bonus bet deal. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the time. All sorts of things. You can play the spreads, the player props, the over-unders. You can play parlays. You can do the same game parlay. You can start stacking. Celtics win, Tatum's points, Porzingis blocks. What else? Whatever you want. Al Horford 3-pointers. Stack those up. You bet $10. You can really build a good parlay. Get yourself up to $70, $80, $90 more, depending on what you pick. If it hits, it's there. So check it out. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Get this NBA season going the right way. Just ask you if you're going to do it. Please gamble responsibly. Want to thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out the Locked On NBA podcast. If you missed it, Jake Madison and I had the Wednesday podcast where we ushered in the NBA season opening night. It was a fun podcast. Locked On NBA, rotating hosts all week long. Check it out wherever you get your podcast. So the final thing here is the thing that makes me go, let's look at the curiosity here. One curiosity from this game is DNP, Delano Banton, O'Shea Brissett, Shvi Mikhailuk, Mayesh Keita, Lamar Stevens, Jordan Walsh, and you. And Keita, I was kind of not surprised. But a bunch of guys didn't play. And I just wonder, what does it mean? Probably not much. This is going to be how it goes. They really only played, I'd say, they only played their top 6. Hauser and Pritchard didn't play a ton, right? Remember I was telling you that Pritchard is not going to get the same opportunity. People losing their minds about Pritchard. Oh, 6th man of the year, Peyton Pritchard. Like, no. He's not going to get the same amount of minutes. He's not going to get the same opportunity. This is kind of how it's going to go for Pritchard. Some nights he'll play more. He might play more against Miami. Maybe he'll play more in another game. But some nights it's going to be like this, 11 minutes, not a ton. Hauser played 13 minutes. Cornette only played 8. You got 38 minutes from Brown and Tatum is just not going to work. That doesn't work for me. Porzingis playing 38 minutes. that can't, they cannot do that. They cannot do that. And I know it's the first game. I would rather see some of these guys off the bench and limit these minutes for Tatum and Brown and Porzingis by like 4 or 5 minutes. Can you find 4 or 5 minutes for O'Shea Brissett? 10 minutes for O'Shea Brissett. 5 to spell Tatum, 5 to spell Brown. And then, I don't know, if Cornette's not cutting it, try Kata. Just try him. Try him for a stint. You can always pull him. I know you don't want to ruin a guy's confidence. We talk about that a lot, and I think people say, just try him for a few minutes, and if it doesn't work, you sit him down. Which, yes, but you do have to worry about, if you do that too many times, you're really messing with a guy's head, and you can really mess with his confidence, and you don't want to do that. But I'm kind of curious to see what the substitution pattern is going to be on Friday for Miami. I am curious about this fourth quarter. It's the Celtics kind of soiling themselves again, and it was the worst. It was the worst case for a little bit there, because Jaylen Brown had 2 turnovers. Both of them were in the fourth quarter. Both of them were in succession. Now, Tatum had 4 turnovers. They happened a little sooner, but he did have 1 late in the game. Tough one. The Celtics still gave up 7 offensive rebounds in the fourth quarter. Can't do that. They let Quickly go off in the fourth quarter, off the bench. You cannot let a guy like Quickly get comfortable, get hot. They did a good job on Randall. They did a good job on Brunson, but Quickly continues to beat the Celtics, and you can't allow guys to get comfortable. The bench units have to be better, and I think this is, one of the Celtics' fears, like that the bench isn't going to be good enough. So the fourth quarter comes around, and they start the fourth quarter terribly. Back and forth. Then they give up another run. Great, they answer. But starting the fourth quarter terribly, the Celtics need to adjust that. And like I said before, I am not a fan, and it didn't really work last year. I'm not a fan of the Jaylen Brown plus bench units. I'm not going to go too crazy with today's game. It's 1 data point. Maybe it's going to change, but I would rather have Jaylen Brown out there with a majority of the starters than have Jaylen Brown out there trying to kind of cook with a couple of the bench guys, right? With Jaylen. Now, Jaylen did have 6 assists in this game and 5 assists in this game. And his passing was definitely a bright spot for him. However, it's not something that I'm expecting to last. And so I don't think Brown with Hauser and Pritchard and just too many bench guys is the right way to go. I understand. I feel like this is the Celtics saying, hey, Tatum is going to be handling a lot and Brown is going to be minimized a little in those lineups. So here's your opportunity. You plus the bench guys, and go cook. Go do your thing. This is your time to shine. You have as much of the spotlight as Jayson Tatum. Go ahead. But I just don't like that dynamic with Jaylen and the bench. So I am wondering about how that substitution pattern is going to go. Do you go with Tatum coming out at the 6-minute mark and coming back in with a minute to go, 2 minutes to go, and carrying you into the second quarter through the point where the regulars can come in, you sit down a little bit in the middle of the second quarter and come back and finish it? Is that the way to go? Was that going to be the way it went? But because Tatum was cooking early, Mazzulla switched his distribution of minutes, maybe that's it. But I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Jaylen Brown bench units. I'd rather have Tatum out there. He's just better at making the other guys better. And I think Jaylen, with the space, with Tatum and Porzingis and all those other guys, I think first quarter, Jaylen Brown, get him going and make sure that he's involved in the fourth quarter. I think that's probably the better way to go for Jaylen. So fourth quarter, I know it looked the same. I know it felt the same. I feel like a couple of tweaks here or there, and it won't be the actual same. I don't think that this is how it's going to go all season long. Let me watch the game again. We'll go to practice on Thursday, assuming that that's still scheduled. Watch the game again, get a better sense of some of the things, some of the finer points that don't necessarily present themselves right away. We'll talk about that in tomorrow's show. And again, Friday night is post-game, post-Miami Heat. Bonus podcast, I'll probably be a little bit shorter, maybe like 15 minutes or so to give you bonus content on the weekends. I will do a post-game podcast after every game, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Would love to have you here on a regular basis, a daily basis, Monday through Friday. Watch the show on YouTube. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And if you're a regular listener, an everydayer, I would love it if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.